Andy. Oh, hey, gang, this is Andy over at the Facebook Live TV show. For some reason, there was a little delay. The countdown was going down, and then it skipped the beat. This is Andy over at the Facebook Live TV show. I am in Brea, California. It's 5 o'clock where I'm at right here, and I'm excited about today. The other day, I met what appears to be a potential long-term friend, but he's all the way on the East Coast. It seems like a lot of my friends are very far away. Maybe that's a sign of something. I'm not sure what it is. But I've been a part of this group called Net Friending, mostly on the peripheral, but now being brought into the Net Friending world. Lorenzo Estevan, right? Flores is a guy that I met about 5 days ago. Really intrigued by his story. He has 2 podcasts going on at the same time, and you've never heard 2 different podcasts coming from the same guy than I have heard from Lozo, is what he likes to be called. And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to delay. I'm going to bring him up right now, and I want to welcome to the show Lozo from Florida, right?
Yes, sir. Orlando, Florida, a.k.a. Winter Garden, a.k.a. the Dub G's.
Florida. Hey, but you're going to wear a Detroit hat this whole time, and that's part of your brand, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, and I am a committed fan of teams that know how to lose and choke. So, with the exception of the Detroit Red Wings, everybody else pretty much, I'm a glutton for punishment. Yep. And so I represent my Detroit hat, and I've worn it since I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a great brand. And I'm going to show the logo here in just a little bit. Oh, I didn't start my own thing here. Oh, my gosh. You got me so nervous and so flustered, I forgot to start my own little movie there behind me. And so we're going to talk about your podcast. And one of them is called Life with Lozo, and then one is Hacking Your Leadership. And just real quick, how long have you been doing each one of those podcasts? Let's start with Life with Lozo. How long have you been doing that one?
Life of Lozo launched March 31st of 2017, so literally just over a year. And Hacking Your Leadership launched in the fall of last year. I don't remember the exact date that we ended up launching, but we're on, I think, episode 61 now. We do 2 a week, so if my math is correct, it's about 30 weeks ago. So, maybe 8 months, 9 months.
All right. Very good. Well, we're going to get into those a little bit deeper and about your history into the podcasting world. But first, what I want to know, because we just met. I don't know hardly anything about you. I know you're married and you have a child or children. I'm not sure what. So why don't you first let us know a little bit about who Lozo is?
Yeah, so I am married. My beautiful wife, Courtney, and I have 2 beautiful daughters who are 2.5 and 1.5. So I've got almost a 3-nager in the house now, and they pretty much run the entire household. And I've loved it. I've loved being a father. I grew up in Michigan, as I mentioned earlier, for a lot of my life, and then ended up out in California, living out there, doing some music out there. And once I realized I could live somewhere where there was no snow, there was no looking back. So since then, I've lived in California, Georgia, and now Florida. I love music, anything music related. I was a DJ for a long time, a music producer, did college radio. And that's kind of what the element of getting back into podcasting was about for me, was getting back on air, talking about things that I'm passionate about, and one of those things really being music. So that's kind of in a nutshell who I am. I've also been a retail leader for 20 plus years. And I'm really passionate about helping people develop and helping them achieve personal and professional goals.
What does a retail leader mean? What is that?
When you go in somewhere and you want to act crazy at a customer service desk and say, the customer's always right, I'm usually the person on the other side of the desk. So, yeah, I mean, retail leadership, it's an ever evolving, always interesting career. But I think the things that you learn working in retail, serving your community, working with the public, and understanding elements of responsibility and feedback and all the life skills that will take you on, as long as you don't get jaded, because that can happen to quite a few people. But if you enjoy people, if you enjoy meeting new people, and if you enjoy fast-paced craziness, it's the life for you. And I don't know, I'm just kind of addicted to it just because I love the personalities that come through. Right. I love the people that are it's a part of their journey. Sometimes it's for short term, sometimes it's for long term, but you meet a lot of really great, interesting people.
Oh, very good. I'm not sure how much you touched on, because for a moment there I had to cut off to change something really quick and then come back. But you talked about your wife. Did you talk about how you guys met and how long you've been married? I'm not sure if you talked about that.
I did not. Yeah, we met through some mutual friends. The funny part was she was born and raised in California, so literally down the road from you in Yorba Linda.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's right. My church is in the Yorba Linda.
Yeah. So we make the trek out there quite often to see family and friends and everything. And I actually, when I was in California, I lived in Fullerton. So,
oh, really?
Yep. When I was out in LA for NAMM in January, I stayed in Brea next to the Brea Mall at the Homewood Suites there. So I'm very aware of that area. Small world. But we've been married for, let me think now. This is the part that she loves that I do, where I act like I don't know when we're married. I think it's been 5 years, maybe 4 years, 3. I think 4.5, maybe. Yeah, she'll love this part of the show. Yeah, but no, it was cool. We met through mutual friends, and the cool part of the story was that we were asked to be in their wedding. So we met because we were going to walk down the aisle in their wedding. And then we started talking and started dating, and then she moved from California to Florida, and we've been together ever since. And now we are experiencing the wonderful life that is parenting.
Awesome. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on too, because you brought something up. It might have been last night on the B Liver or the B Livers group and the Net Friending group. There's so many groups that we are on. And it's interesting because you brought up the Brea Mall. I was just there maybe 30 minutes ago trying to pick out an outfit for tonight for our little meeting. And I couldn't find a thing. And so I just put on my Houdini shirt, because I used to be a magician way back. And I was trying to bring a little bit of magic to our show. And of course, I brought my hat. I still even got the stickers on it. Just, I wanted to be a little bit.
I love it.
I wanted to be with it for you. And one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the podcasting is I also noticed that you're a ring guy or ring master or something with MMA. What's that all about?
The ring master.
The ring master.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny because the t-shirt that I'm wearing, 850. So I'm actually on the board of directors for the Josh Saman MMA Foundation, and Josh was a UFC fighter that passed away a little over a year ago. And so we do a bunch of scholarships for up and coming combat fighters and really helping people that want to achieve, their dream or live out their ability to fight. And so a very close friend of Josh's and somebody that I met a long time ago puts on local MMA events throughout Florida and Georgia. And, we were talking about the foundation and doing things to help out. And we had a meeting one day, and he said to me, "You got a really good voice for radio. Have you ever done ring announcing before?" And I was like, "Never have, outside of just acting funny and imitating Michael Buffer." And he goes, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So I actually, this Saturday, Orlando Live events here in Orlando, April 7th, Combat Night Pro 5, I will be announcing in the ring. So it'll be a good time.
I'm glad I know you, because maybe somehow I can get some tickets in the future. I love MMA. I love it. My daughter's a huge fan of McGregor. That's the right name?
Oh, are you Conor McGregor?
Yes.
Are
Conor
you
McGregor.
aware what he did today?
No, but she told me to watch his documentary on Netflix because it was super good. But what happened?
He decided to attack the bus at the Barclays Center with a ton of fighters in the bus, throwing chairs, breaking windows. The NYPD is currently trying to find him, to arrest him. There's a warrant out for him and the 30 thugs that he took to Barclays Center. And there are going to be lawsuits. He injured a fighter with broken glass. It's kind of a situation today. So we'll see what happens with Mr. Conor McGregor going forward. But not a good look today. Bad decision quality.
Yeah. You think? All righty then. Well, let's get right into one of your podcasts, and I have a few questions after we talk a little bit about each one of them. But right here, I'm going to go solo with my screen. We got Hacking Your Leadership. I really do like the logo, little mic there. It looks really cool. What I love is that you have a co-host or partner on that show, and the two of you really seem to have a good connection and really talk about some really truly good business stuff. Just a couple of titles I looked at recently, which would have helped me when I almost had about 500 employees at one time. And a couple of titles are, do you let your employees fail enough? That's a good topic. Do your employees dream of doing something else? Almost every one of my employees dreamed of doing something else and left it and took all of my stuff and did it themselves. And then development versus delegation. Huge. Those are just three of the topics that jumped right out at me. Where did this podcast come from? How did you guys come up with the idea? And who's your partner and all that? Just give me all the details.
Sure, absolutely. So my partner is Chris Stark. I've known him for 13 years. I actually stood up in his wedding, and he's in California. And we were really good friends. We worked together for a while with Best Buy in California at a special time when the company was doing something they called customer centricity, and there was a lot of employee empowerment. And he and I led a team around training and leadership training. And a lot of the idea was for us to kind of look at, reassess the training materials from a corporate standpoint, make them more organic and make them more actionable and based more on theory than anything. So, we were really in deep with a lot of that programming for that company. When I decided to do the Life of Lozo podcast last year, I did a couple of episodes of the show. And immediately people started saying like, hey, why don't you talk about leadership? Like we've known you as a leader. You've been a leader all over the country. It'd be cool to kind of hear you talk about that part of your life too, because you're pretty much talking about like music and hip hop and your friends are on the show, but you should talk about leadership. So I said, okay. And I went on my LinkedIn and I sent some messages out to a bunch of people and said, hey, I'm going to do an episode on leadership. Would you mind sending me a question? And so a bunch of people did. And so I forwarded those questions to Chris and I said, hey, would you mind being on the Life of Lozo podcast? And here's my idea. I just want you to ask me these questions that I've never read and I'm going to answer them. And I said, we'll see how this goes and if people like it. And we did an episode and it went for about 45 minutes and we got a lot of feedback on it. They really, really enjoyed it. They really appreciated it. It was unscripted and it was a little bit of banter back and forth and it went well. So then we did a second episode of that on Life of Lozo. Same exact thing. Now we had an inbox full of questions and themes. And will you talk about this? Will you talk about that? So I was at a crossroads. Do I turn my Life of Lozo podcast into a leadership podcast or do something else? And what we ended up doing was deciding that let's do something together and let's get some feedback and some thoughts. And so we decided to rebrand and do a second podcast. And, a lot of what people said was, it should be something I can listen to on my way to work. And so we decided to say about 20 minutes of the length of the show. We started with the questions that we still had in the hopper from originally. And then as we started the podcast, we started to post it on LinkedIn and a lot of leadership groups and retail leadership groups. And then the flood started happening of comments and questions and reviews and all kinds of stuff. So we kind of felt like we hit a stride and we really tapped into a market that we really weren't expecting. And so it's just been a great ride from there. And we continue to get tons of questions, tons of themes. He and I are both really into leadership theory. So we watch a lot of TED Talks. We read a lot of articles. We read a lot of LinkedIn stuff. We follow influencers. So there's always topics to talk about. But I think what people have appreciated most about our show is that it's completely unscripted. So Chris will start and say, hey, we're going to talk about this. And then we go. And we say a lot of ums. I say a lot of, it's kind of my go-to default pause word after listening back. But I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's what makes the show genuine and organic is that it really is a couple of guys. And Chris is a consultant, an international consultant for leadership. And he's been a director of employee communication. So we have a lot of things that we agree on, but we see them in very different ways sometimes. And I think that's what makes the show great.
So I guess I got a question that I would have for you, and this is unscripted also. I'm going to ask you a question that may or may not be difficult. Okay. And that is, what does a leader mean? What's a leader to you? If you were to define a leader in a sentence or a paragraph or however you want to do it, what would that be? Who is a leader? What is a leader?
Just the term leader, I believe, is somebody who inspires people to be the best versions of themselves and role models the behaviors, to be able to connect with people and meet them where they're at in regards to their journey of learning about themselves and learning about what they're doing. And, and really takes the time to own the responsibility. By title, I say the minute that you become a leader, you are now directly responsible for the development of others. And that's really what it is to me. I think that, for a true leader for me is somebody who creates apostles and not soldiers. So they lead and they carry themselves in such a way that, people choose to want to follow them, versus being forced to follow them.
I like it. I like it a lot. I really could have used this podcast when I had all the employees. I'm down to one because it was miserable having employees, by the way. But that's a whole other story. Your podcast would help people it not be that miserable of an experience. Part of my problem, what do you deal with in any of your episodes with the 20-somethings that feel like just everything should happen regardless whether they work or not, that they deserve a paycheck or that they don't get enough time off? Or is there anything discussed about that, or is that only my experience?
No, there's a ton. We touch on the millennials, and we touch on this generation, and I think what we try to do there is really understand that what used to be leadership and now the concept of social leadership, right? We've had a shift in culture where people, and especially the millennials right now, they have a different expectation of leadership. They have a different expectation of work. And really to best understand and to lead them is to talk to them and realize that their expectations now are that you provide a culture in which they can learn and which you can actually align with their strengths. And so it's a very different way of leadership and very different than what we maybe saw 20 years ago and 30 years ago. But I think every generation has this type of different evolution when you go back to, the early days of the assembly lines and all the way through, the boom of, of blue collar jobs, and you get into things like, the financials, the dot-com eras. Like every generation has this change in expectation from what they want to see in a job. And it's no longer the old, I clock in, you tell me what to do, I do it, I clock out, I go home. And I think the internet is mainly the reason that exists now, is that our ability to see what other people do, our ability to get information very, very quickly, and to be able to form our opinions makes it such that this generation has a different expectation of leadership. So we talk a lot about, how do you inspire? How do you motivate? How do you connect with this generation where maybe they just have a completely different view on how and where they want to work? Because at the end of the day, if you look at, many people that are leading in many industries across the board, they're young leaders. There's a ton of talent in this generation, but I think that there is this transition period where the leaders that have been here a while or are used to one style are now understanding they have to adjust what they're doing, and it's difficult. It's not easy because it's a whole different way of looking at the business and looking at how your people value the organization and how they want to be treated.
Right. Yeah. Well, I could sit here and talk about leadership for a very long time. You bring up so many points, and I wanted to respond to a couple of them, but we'll never get to the life of Lozo, which is a completely different thing. I want to say an urban environment. You got your business environment, and would urban be okay? Is that okay to say?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, because it truly it's two different people. You got this urban thing, which helps me understand how you can connect with the 20-somethings and in that what is it? Generation what?
Well, it's the millennial generation. The millennials.
Yeah, that one. Because the life of Lozo is so darn different, and it's based on music. Is that correct, or is there more to it than just the music aspect?
It's pretty much a show based on everything that I'm interested in, which is a whole lot of different crazy stuff. The initial concept of the podcast was I was going to only talk about 1990s in the hip hop era. Like that was it. That was the initial idea. I was like, I got this pegged down. It's going to be awesome. I talked to a bunch of my DJ buddies. I talked to a bunch of my hip hop people, and I was like, this would be great. And I started talking and vetting the idea through all my friends, and over the course of me asking people, like, would they be on the show? What would it be about? How would I do this? People started saying, well, the thing that makes this show kind of cool and unique is that it's you. Like, it really should be about you and what you're into. And like hip hop can be a part of that, but you're also into MMA and you're into small business and you have a lot of interests in, you social media, and you like to meet people, you like to interview them, you're very curious. So why don't you make it about you? And that was kind of weird, but I'm always taking feedback. I'm always open to ideas. So that's kind of what it came down to. I said, well, it'd be kind of cool if I did a show that was like, I don't know, like my life, like the life of Lozo. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And then I was like, now I need to design. I need to figure out a graphic. And I actually created the Detroit face with the beard right there. And then I reached out to my boy Anthony, who lives in Tampa, A. Charles Photos, and said, dude, I need help because I think this is kind of cool, but I'm not sure. And he was like, the head is awesome. Everything else you created is garbage. Let me help you. So all props to him. He came up with the idea. He came up with the logo. It's awesome. And it's funny because I can pull up pictures of the last 30 years and I'll find one at every age in a Detroit hat. So it seemed to work.
It is awesome. I love it. There was a question brought up in a chat that we're involved in about personal branding. And so don't let me forget to talk about that too. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about right now, but that definitely is, I think, what you have going for you is that personal branding. You're going to be easily recognizable as you grow and get bigger and go forward. That definitely is a great job. It actually, do you have that as a tattoo by chance?
Not yet. Yes, I'm still kind of weirded. Like, do you put your own face on your own body? Is that body modification? Is this? I don't know. It's kind of weird. I have all kinds of T-shirts and stickers, though. That's for sure.
Well, I need some of those.
I got you.
So before I go into these questions, I just want to know a little bit of what your thoughts are about podcasting. Why podcasting? Why not try to find a way to take this on, terrestrial radio or Sirius XM or whatever might be available. How did you come about that you decided I need to do this and I'm going to create a podcast? Was there any thought put to it, or is this the only choice?
No, it was, I did college radio for a number of years and I really enjoyed radio and just the idea of being able to, connect with people over voice. It was just something that I enjoy doing. And so when I was thinking about, last year I turned 40 and I was like, well, 40 is a big year. I want to do a couple things. Let me think about what are the things that I'm really, really passionate about and what are the things that bring me joy. And in doing some type of media and talking about things that I love to talk about, I was like, that would be cool. So I started doing some research. I'm a big podcast fan. I listen to a lot of different podcasts. So I said, maybe that's the angle. I looked at internet radio and I realized, I'd rather have full control. I'd rather talk about whatever it is I want to talk about. And I'd rather also, commit to something that I know I can do and not overextend myself. And so I figured, a podcast that I can do once a week, would be something I could control, something that I could do. And I think it would be a lot of fun. And, the other thing about podcasts that's unique is that you can listen to them and do other things. You can listen to them on the way into work, while you're walking the dogs, while you're at the gym, at night on your computer, people at work. I've got a lot of friends of mine that work in office environments and, they have work to do, but they pop in headphones and they listen to the show. And I get text messages on Friday mornings when the show comes out, and they're laughing or they're giving me feedback and all that type of thing. So for me, it just seemed right. It felt really good. And I said, this would be something cool to do. And I jumped right into it. And it immediately took me back to my college days being on college radio, and I felt comfortable. And so now this, the meeting you and going into net friending and using Be Live and now doing live streaming on video, this is new to me. And this is something that I would tell you I was really uncomfortable with to begin with. I was like, you get in video, you're in front of a camera, you're going to have lighting, how does this all work? because I would rather just talk and, and record and then publish. But this is me getting outside of my box, my comfort zone, and seeing that there's another medium here. There's more of an intimate connection here. So I'm just learning. But yeah, I think the voice in the future, there's going to be a lot more voice that people will be getting into. And very soon, I think the idea of terrestrial radio is going to be hard for people to kind of utilize. I think it's going to be all on-demand podcasting and then video streaming.
Just like TV 1.0, TV 2.0 is coming, and it's you got to get ready for it. This is where we're at. As far as the being on video versus the podcast, I think for me, what it connected with me is that seeing the logo, seeing your Facebook page, but then seeing you on video kind of brought it all together for me. And so I really like that you're bringing those two together. For me, it seems like there's a really cool way of connecting with you. And now when I listen to the podcast, I see you, I can see you talking behind the mic and that kind of stuff. And it makes it even more of a connection. I think that's the beauty of bringing video into your podcast.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I said I'm enjoying it. Chris and I were talking about it a couple nights ago about where we want to go with hacking your leadership, because a lot of people, we've teased a little bit around maybe like a live element, and a lot of people have wanted to join the show, ask questions on the show, things like that. So we kind of felt that like the next thing for us is to take what we do in our conversation and probably start to broadcast live and allow people that want to hop in and ask questions and, communicate them with them in real time. Because many times we start to talk about a theme and then we get on a tangent, or we feel like we've closed the chapter on the question. And then we get a follow-up email that says, hey, really enjoyed the show, but can you give us some more context here? What about this question? What about in this industry? And so, we feel that would be the next thing for us. That way we can actually get deeper when the audience wants us to get deeper into certain subjects.
Yeah. So I'm going to take you through a little exercise, because now we know a little bit about the hacking your leadership and the life of Lozo, and the two differences. And this was what was so intriguing to me, and probably one of the things that triggered my message to you. Let's do an interview. There's a little bit of a thing I take some of my students through in when they're trying to decide who their market is, what their message is going to be, and what media they're going to choose, right? So you first have to start with who your market is. And some of the questions I want them to ask themselves is, what, in regard to what you're trying to sell, what is it that your market, the people you're thinking are going to buy your thing, what is it that they love? That's question number one. What do they love? So in the occasion of Falco Canine Academy, which is my dog training business, is that my people generally love rescue dogs. They love story about the police dogs. They love seeing dogs in action and being used for greater things, right? That's what they love. What they hate is the next question. What do they hate? They tend to hate euthanasia, kill shelters. There's some people that are in the training business that they hate, and I identify those so that I know what they hate. So I know what they love, I know what they hate. And who do they love? That's the next one. Who do they love? Like it doesn't have to even be related to the subject matter. So they could be, say, Republicans, and they hate or they love Trump, right? And then the next one, who do they hate? And it could be they hate Hillary, right? So it could be away from what it is that you're trying to sell, but you just want to get into their psyche a little bit, what type of people they are and who they are. The next one is, after who do they hate, is what do they really want? So what do they really want out of life? I think the people in the dog training business, or at least the people that follow me, knowing that I'm a police officer, knowing that I'm a Republican, knowing all these things, I get a better idea, because I accidentally or on purpose bring some of these things up once in a while. And so, of course, I repel the people that don't like my message. But in relationship to what do they want? They want somebody that is, an expert in what it is they do and really makes a difference in their dog. They want to not have their dog jump on people when they come through the door. They want to be able to take their dog out for a walk and not be embarrassed. So I identify those things. And the only reason I'm telling you this is so you have an idea of what you're going to answer when I ask you these questions about each one of the podcasts separately. And then the last question is, what do they perceive as getting in the way of what they want? And so then we talk about that, the knowledge of, at least for dog training, what tool to use, what collar to use, what leash to use, what steps do they need to take before they get to the end result. And so that is that they perceive that not knowing that information is what's getting in the way, or the wrong collar is being distributed to them. So that's just an example of how somebody might use that in a business. So to get started, for the Life of Lozo, for that audience, for that market that you're trying to reach, those people, what is it that they love?
They love 90s hip hop, and they love, the nostalgia with, when they grew up. So like that audience and that crowd for the most part is 35 to 45. And they really, really enjoy remembering back to when they were in, middle school, high school, college, and when, a time when there was a lot of music that was happening. It was very regional, everything from, hip hop growing from East Coast, West Coast, down South, Midwest, to then the grunge movement, to, some of the college rock movement. There's a lot of things going on in the 90s. So a lot of my audience for Life of Lozo is actually within my age bracket. And they love the things now as adults. They love to talk about things like small business. They love to talk about things that maybe they've had an interest in but never really understood. So things like social media, things like, one of my favorite guests that I have on time is my friend Christian, and he's the private jeweler and he's a sales consultant, and he's got tremendously great stories because he's about my age, a little bit younger, but he's about our age, and what he shares and the way that he knows these things. It's just it's a cool thing. So that's what I would tell you, that my Life of Lozo audience, and the listeners that really buy into that show, are around that age bracket, because they can remember back when that came out, that happened. And so they're really aligned with my psyche of things that I remember and how they impact me now as a 40-year-old.
Nice. So hacking your leadership, what do they love?
They love personal development, and they love to hear from leaders who are willing to admit mistakes, to give advice, and to be really transparent. That's what they love. Nice.
I'm already identifying, it seems to be two completely different things, which when you listen to, and just on approaching the things they love, your voice changes, your persona changes, your language changes, and you're speaking in a way that your Life of Lozo audience, I think, loves. And I mean, you speak right to them. And then you got this whole corporate guy on your leadership. And your voice is completely different. It's and then you go, LBC Compton. No, you don't do that. Okay, so for your Life of Lozo, what do they hate?
They hate fake. They hate posers. They hate culture vultures, is a term that we utilize. Culture vultures. So people that, claim to be really passionate about those things, like specifically in the hip hop industry, where they say that, there's like, as an example, right? Somebody who could care less about, the hip hop movement, the four elements of hip hop, the things like that, yet they want to start a urban hip hop t-shirt business, right? And it's like, what's your street cred? What have you done? What are you doing? How are you helping support the movement, the culture, right?
So, we have that in cops. They're called security guards.
Right, exactly. Mall cops, right?
Sorry if you're a security guard and you're watching this. I'm just kidding.
I'm not sorry at all. This is Life of Lozo.
See? There's the voice. I'm going to have you do that later on, too. No, that's good. I'm sorry. I cut you off with my little thing.
Yeah, no, they just hate disingenuine, people, and I think people that are not open, to learn new things and to be comfortable with who they are.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hacking leadership. What do they hate?
They hate fake leaders who are all about themselves and trying to move up the corporate ladder. They hate being told that that they're not good enough, or that they are incapable of, getting to the jobs they want to get to. and they hate being jam-packed with theory and almost being talked down to as they're not smart enough to get what needs to get done. And they hate the political elements of how this day and age, many times, hard work doesn't actually equal opportunity.
Leadership. The very first one you said is that people that try to climb the corporate ladder. Is that how you worded it?
Leaders that are all about themselves and put themselves first as the priority. Like their priority is to get themselves promoted, not to make their people better.
Oh, okay. Now that makes sense. I was just wondering how somebody goes up without climbing the corporate ladder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Back to the life of Lozo. Who do they love besides you?
They love Tupac, they love Biggie, they love DJ Premier, they love the wake up show. They love Sway and Tech. They love the people that have gone out and helped push this culture forward and been genuine and been real.
Nice. Yep, I could have answered that one. That was good. Hacking, I don't know why I have to keep looking at Hacking Your Leadership. I should remember by now. Hacking Your Leadership, who do they love?
They love Simon Sinek. They love John C. Maxwell. They love leaders that are inspirational. They love leaders that take the time to get to know them and to understand what motivates them intrinsically. And they love the leaders that can connect with them outside of just what they get paid to do when they work a job.
How about names? Back to the names, you said Maxwell.
Maxwell, Sinek, Lozo from Google, Elon Musk, Tim Cook, Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg, Gary Vaynerchuk. They love Gary Vaynerchuk. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. Joe Rogan.
How about Tim Ferriss?
Oh, Tim Ferriss. Yeah, I'll throw some Tim Ferriss in there.
How about Joe Rogan's probably on the Life of Lozo?
Oh, yeah. He's a little bit of both. So I have an interesting concept about Joe Rogan's show that I want to bring into leadership. I just won't spill the beans just yet.
Okay. What about Dave Asprey? You know about Dave?
Dave Asprey.
Yep. Bulletproof coffee. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, I know Bulletproof Coffee. Yeah, they love TEDx talks.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Nice. All right. Who, Life of Lozo, who do they hate?
Ooh.
Who, the name? I want names.
They hate Little Gotti. They hate almost every name with Lil at the beginning of it outside of Lil Kim and maybe Lil Wayne. They'll give him some credit for that. They hate people that will not pay homage or respect those that are pioneers of hip hop and those that truly came from taking it mainstream, not because they wanted the money, but because they wanted to tell the story of what was going on in their cities and in their neighborhoods.
Nice. I did it again. Hacking Your Leadership. Who do they hate?
Hacking Your Leadership. They hate
Bernie.
No, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Politically, I don't know. I don't know that I could define who they hate because we have a pretty good crosscut of
this
listeners.
is part of the exercise. You got to find out who they think.
They hate Chris because I'm a better host. Yeah.
Almost came out the nose.
No, they hate. They hate the memes. They hate the videos of people that constantly attack this generation because they don't understand it. They hate being told that they're entitled. They hate being told that they are here's a great example of people that they hate. I saw a meme the other day where somebody posted something and said, and back in our days, we didn't have to put labels on things that said "do not eat this," right? And I said, well, you know what, the funny thing about that is that the reason why the label exists is because we ate it, right? Like that's why the label's actually there, because you're judging this generation by saying like, we didn't have it. Well, yeah, but I didn't grow up with seatbelts when I was a small kid, right? Like we tend to forget that that we did a lot of dumb things in our generation, including MTV Spring Break for many years. But we didn't have the ability to document it, right? we didn't have social media, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have a camera phone every other block. And so when you and I did really dumb things and we got away with it, nobody saw it, but maybe a couple friends, and we cut our pinkies and say, I swear we'll never talk about this again. Right. So it's just that, I think they hate that that being told who they are, and I think all generations do. Yeah.
I ate a few guppies out of Lake Dolores and followed that with a drink of a beer. But I never snorted a condom. I mean, that's one thing I never did. I'm not sure that I would do that ever.
You haven't lived, Andy. I'm gonna hit you with the with the April
I don't think I got any names on your hacking your leadership for people that they hate. There's got to be somebody. And I don't mind. Yeah. I mean, this is a really important exercise if you're going to know who your audience is.
Yeah. They hate their sucky bosses. I mean,
that's not a name.
I need a name. I'm trying to think, who do they?
All right, we'll come back.
Absolutely despise. That's a great question.
There's got to be somebody that they hate. All right, back to the life of Lozo. What do they really want? What does your audience for the love of the life of Lozo really want?
They want debate. They want opinions that either validate what they're thinking or that they will respond and say, kill yourself. We could not disagree with you more. That audience loves debates and they love stories. They love stories and funny things that have happened. But I'll tell you what, my most popular shows on there is when we get going on opinions of different things, and especially when it comes to music. I did a top 5 MC show after I surveyed 100 people, and that's always the most unpopular thing to talk about because everybody has an opinion. But they loved it. They ate it up. I actually did that show live. That was one of the first shows I ever did live streaming on Facebook. And a lot of views. I think it's somewhere at the 1,500, 1,600 views at this point. And yeah, it was a big show. And but people, they just love debate.
I think that's where much of this really comes together. These questions and really knowing who your market is, and then if knowing what they love. After you've done all that stuff, you can really zero in on some of those topics that are really will catch their attention and cause them to share and like and all the other stuff that you're supposed to do to get people to watch. So that's really important, I think, to understand that. So that then brings me to hacking your leadership. See, I didn't look. What is it that they really want? What do they really want when they come to your show? Or what do they really want out of life? Or what do they just really want in general?
They want to hear leaders talk about real themes and real questions. They want basically to hear what's going on inside the manager's office when the door's closed. That's what they want. This is exactly what they want. They want to know, like, as a leader, when we get on a show and we talk about something that is meaningful and or not popular. We had an episode. One of the biggest episodes we ever had was talking about employee pay. And what does that look like, and how do you make decisions, and things like merit reviews every year, and pay increases, and talking about your pay with peers and employees and things like that. And a lot of leaders message us about the show, say, man, that was a really, really good show, because you said a lot of things that we really would not say to our people, because it could, it could open up doors or conversations, but because it's a conversation between Chris and I, we can voice our opinion, we can share what we think, and we can say things like, look, if you don't come to work and do your job or work hard, or you slack off all the time, I dare you to come talk to me about wanting to make more money. Right? Because it's not going to be a good conversation for you. And that will never happen. Well, it will happen in some instances. But, when it comes to proper leadership, that's just not a conversation you would normally have with team members. But for people to understand it and to hear it, like, that's the type of things that we talk about. So that's really what our audience wants, is to hear two leaders talk about real things as if we're the only two in the room, which is kind of what we do.
Awesome. Yeah. Life of Lozo. These are hard. This last question is the hardest out of all of them. Yeah. But for Life of Lozo, what do they perceive as getting in the way of what they want? What are some of the things that get in the way of just being able to chill and chill? See, I'm using the lingo. Chill and get what they want out of your show or out of life. What is getting in their way?
Out of my show, I've gotten this feedback from my good friend Kyle Willis, who says you talk too much when people are telling stories. You need to shut up. Let them finish their story. Kyle always wants to hear the story, and he wants to hear people just work through their thoughts, and it's fantastic feedback. Because if you listen to the show earlier on, I would do a lot of verbal affirmations while people were talking. So you get a lot of, yep, okay, yep. And I didn't realize that while I was thinking that was showing that I was paying attention to the listener of the show, it's really annoying. And the person talking can feel like, well, I guess you want me to shut up so you could ask me another question. So that gets in the way, I think, in some episodes when I have too many people on at the same time. That can get in the way of getting through our content or getting to finish things because it can go awry. What gets in the way of their life? That is a really good question. I think there's a danger in holding on too much into the past and kind of like that idea, like that Uncle Rico syndrome from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Right. If all you're doing is living about how that time in that era was the greatest era in time of, forever, and that these kids and this thing, and it's not like it used to be, and, you want to dress that way and act that way and believe that way. I believe that it holds you back in involving yourself personally, and it limits your opportunities going forward. It's never good to live in the past. You can appreciate the past, you can remember the past, but if you're living in the past, then how can you go into the future?
Yeah. So you think Flava Flav has been holding on to that clock for a little bit too long, or?
Yeah, he got beat up in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago by somebody. That proves the point. Put the clock down. Yeah, leave that life alone, Flavor Flav.
All right, for hacking your leadership, what do they perceive as getting in their way of maybe either success or becoming a leader or being a leader? What's getting in their way?
What they perceive is leaders that won't give them a chance. That's what they perceive, is that I don't get my chance. They don't listen to me. They don't appreciate my ideas. I worked hard. I didn't get that job. That's what they perceive. I guess what the reality is, a lot of them don't want to work that hard. That's just the truth. Like, to actually come in to be the best version of yourself every day and to put in the work that should get you noticed, to get you an opportunity, is very heavy lifting. But I think that the perception that we hear a lot about is my leader. And, hey, if your leader told you that you need to come to work on time before you get promotion to full time, that's not your leader's fault. You need to come to work on time, So I think that's the perception that's holding them back, is they want to shift the blame of their lack of execution to somebody holding them down, when that's just not the case.
Nice. So let's talk about the Life of Lozo really quick. With all those questions and answers in mind, is your show giving them what they need to get past the things that are holding them back? How do you feel you're doing on that with your show?
I think yes, because since my show is not just 90s hip hop, and I'm bringing in people that are our age, that have started small businesses, people that are our age that have gotten into social media and made careers out of that, people that are our age that have gone on to do consulting, and I'm bringing in people that appreciate the same things that we appreciate, but have then moved forward in their life, and they've taken that hustle and that era, and they've applied it in a different way. So as an example, I had Brooks Whalen on my show, and he does something called Local Goods Market, where he works with all the local creators in Jacksonville, Florida, and he's built a website where if you buy local, he'll actually deliver that local item to you wherever you are in Jacksonville. And it's a cool place to go to see like what's going on. Like if I want to support a local business or a local creator, I go to Brooke's site. We go from there, and it's successful. And a lot of people go there, and there's more and more people that are getting in it. He's vetting to go onto that site. But the other cool thing that he did was he started a video arcade and like brewery. Or something that opened up like a couple of months ago, where it's like all these arcade games from the 80s, the 90s, and wow. But it's perfect. Like that's exactly what I haven't brought him on the show to talk about that yet, but I'm going to bring him down to Orlando and we're going to chat about it because it's a fantastic model. It's awesome, and that's what I'm saying. He's applying what we appreciate from the past into the now to then create a business model and be able to serve that consumer. So I think that. If people take that context from the show, that would make me really happy. In full transparency, I don't think about the show content that way. I'm not thinking about how can I add value. So I appreciate this practice because I'm thinking about that now that we've discussed it. I'm thinking about how can I be more intentful with who I bring on and the message that I put on the show to maybe help some people connect some of those dots and move forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, then now let's take it over to Hacking Leadership. How are you doing in delivering the message to the people that we just identified?
I think a pretty good job. I think that based on the feedback that we've seen, the reviews that we've seen, the subscriber base that we've seen, and the continuing amount of interest and messages that we get, I think that we've done a really good job in two things. And number one, helping leaders, think about how they lead people differently. And like a great example, I got a message from a leader in New Hampshire last week after one of our episodes came out. We talked about it was the delegation versus development versus shirking responsibility that we talked about. Yeah. And she sent us a message. She said, I just finished your show. And, I don't have the opportunity to delegate a lot. I have to do the job of my team quite often because I don't have a very big team. And so I feel like I'm not a good leader based on how you guys talk about the importance of delegation. So we responded to her and he said, look, delegation does not equal good leadership. It is something that as a leader, you need to be good at, and is very helpful to free up your capacity to do some other work and develop your team. But if you're in a situation where you don't have a large team and you're not capable of delegating, then you can be a great leader by role modeling and helping people get great at the work that you are all doing, and also listening to them and helping them with their personal and professional goals. But we're going to do an episode on that comment to say here's the comment, here's the question that she has. How do we go deeper into that? So I think that we're delivering well on the message and we're helping. And at the same time, I have people that are not currently leaders that listen to the show because, again, they want to hear what happens in the manager's office and they want to get a better insight on what they should be doing if they're trying to position themselves as a future leader.
Nice. Yeah, just to go back really quick to what you talked about the yeah, and that kind of thing, is that when I've learned now that I've been interviewing people, if I stay quiet during the times that people are really hitting some marks, and they can just go on. But once I see them going down a rabbit hole or trailing off on something, then I go, oh, okay, and I'll start then chiming in. Yeah. And I have not had to really come in on you at all because that information you just laid out is gold. When you're setting up a podcast and really directly impacting your market, that's when you get those kinds of responses and people going, what you said may have changed my life or may have changed something that I was doing. And that is beautiful, and a beautiful thing that comes from that. So just keep up the good work. Can I talk to you a little bit, if you don't mind, about what your end goal is in regard to, in the end, these are all hopefully businesses that we're trying to, there's some things you can do as a hobby, but you can't have a hobby unless you are, feeding your wife and your kid and keeping a roof over your head and that kind of stuff. Is there a strategy for monetizing Life with Lozo? I know that you have people that you give shout outs to and that kind of stuff and talk about businesses. Is that a form of revenue that you're having? Or if you don't feel comfortable talking about, that's fine. But what is the monetization aspect of Life of Lozo?
Yeah, so Life of Lozo has some sponsors and really it's small businesses and friends and people, because again, for me, the podcast was about doing something that I love to do. and that I really wanted to do. So it's more about me living out a passion and doing something that I've always enjoyed. That's what it was all about. But when I started talking to people about it and getting their opinions and asking them about content, what do they think about it? I started getting people saying, well, are you looking for sponsors? Like, how can I be involved? What can we do?
People came to you.
Well, it's just in conversation. Yeah. Because it's like, having the network that I had and the people that I knew, it was just, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's really cool. Like, I'd love for you to be on the show. And they're like, yeah, of course. Like, well, what do you need? What do you want to do? So it was interesting because the intent for me never was to actually like monetize. It was literally just, I want to have fun doing something I love, So the sponsorship thing is one thing. I use it as a way to promote the businesses and things that my friends do. Shout out to Squiggy. I see he's on the show. My boy Carmen, dropping in some comments with the music experience. But he's one of, that's my dog. He's,
there we go.
He's one, yep. He's one of those that, that again, I want to be able to help my friends in any way that I can. And if shouting them out, putting them on the show, talking about stuff is something that will add value, then that's what I'm all about. So the life of Lozo for me is not a thing that, that I'm thinking in that mindset. However, I've been approached by many people and asked, to talk about small businesses and some of the things that they do. So like, I don't mind doing it, but for me, that's really, it's just a passion thing. If it leads to something bigger, then cool. You know what I mean? But it's not that. Hacking your leadership, on the other side, we have very specific.
Wait. I didn't ask the question.
Oh,
whose show is this after all?
I'm sorry. It's your show.
You're really. No, just wait really quick. I'm just joking with you, but just to go back to the life of Lozo, I mean, that is like, it's something else to hear you say that just people just start asking how they can give me money, right? There's so many people doing podcasts that are struggling to try to find somebody to sponsor the show, that are struggling to try to have somebody give them, just a little bit of money just to mention their name on it, that kind of stuff. And so, is there a trick to that, or is it just you had a network of people that that were following you already? How did that all happen?
I think if you live life by doing things and expecting nothing in return. I think if you live life that way, and you just put yourself out there and you try to add value to people in any way that you can, and when you meet great people, you help them. That's just kind of my mantra I've lived in life, and something I try to constantly do is that, the one thing that we can control and have is our time. And if there's a way that I can help somebody achieve what they're trying to achieve, then I feel good, and I go to bed at night and I feel like I've done something good on the day. And I just think that was the thing, is like, honestly, like I didn't go and ask, because it was never about that. It was just that I have a pretty good sized network and people that I've met all over the country in different ways and different reasons. And as I mentioned, it was something that I was doing, that it was a passion about mine. They asked to be involved, and so I get it. I got a lot of friends that do podcasts now, like in this world. And I know what you mean, like trying how to monetize and how do you get sponsors and how do you go out there and hustle. And yes, you absolutely can. But again, it's just two different approaches to it. We talked a little bit about this on Net Friending the other day, but like, if what is in your soul and your core is to just see the world in a way where, like, how can I help add value, and how can I pay it forward for people that did it for me, right? I've been many times in my life where I needed help, and whether I asked for it or not, there were people there in my life that helped me. So like for me, it's just, that's the game. That's what I want to do. It's what brings me joy. It's what I want my daughters to do when they grow up. So like, that's just how I see it. So again, like I don't know. That's just what happened, and I'm very thankful for it. But again, I also don't like, it's weird when people want to do that stuff for you. It's really cool, but it's also like I'm not sending billing statements. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to even continue it unless they really, really want to, okay. Because again, like it was never about that. So yeah. I don't know.
How does the word relationship fit into that? Is that the key? Building relationships?
Absolutely. 100%. I think it's what's the relationship based on? I know we were a part of a chat earlier this morning, very, very early this morning, about yes. relationships and what do people perceive them as, and what are friendships, and how do people perceive those? And again, like, I think if you just live life, and you I saw a TED Talk a while ago. We actually showed it to some leaders around givers and takers, and are you a giver or are you a taker?
Yeah.
And I think if you just go out and give and expect nothing in return, it always comes back full, in different ways. So for me, it was the podcast. For me, it was doing things for people and trying to be of value and trying to help people because they're great people with never expecting anything in return. So when I said, hey, I'm going to do this podcast thing, people wanted to help me. And I appreciate that. And I accepted their help because why not?
Yep. So now, hacking your leadership,
Yes.
I get the sense that this is a great opportunity, whether you agree with this or not, that you, over the episodes, you and I'm so sorry, what's his name again?
Chris. Yeah.
You and Chris, the way that you speak, and I love it. I've listened to it, and I listen to both. But I love what you're talking about. You, in a sense, whether you meant to or not, are setting yourselves up as great mentors, consultants, trainers, teachers that people would want to bring into the business. Hey, help us here train our leaders to be better leaders. Is that a model that you're looking for, or something not even related to that?
Yeah, no, that's, for us, it's a passion project. We've been approached by sponsors. We've been approached by companies that, aggregate podcasts that they see in the top 10, top 20 of iTunes business. And we've been there a few times. And they want to be able to put, ads in and that type of thing. And what Chris and I, talked about from day one was like, this is actually about the people. This is about let's just try to make a difference. If we can help a couple of leaders that are struggling, if we can help a couple of people understand the reality of what they should be doing to get them, where they want to be in their careers, that's the thing that we appreciate the most. We treasure every one of those emails, every one of those questions, every one of those text messages. That's what gives us the fuel to want to do the show. So we've been very deliberate about saying we don't want to take on any sponsors unless there is somebody out there or a sponsor that is in the same mindset of trying to help add value to those people that are trying to do this work. So, the last thing we wanted was me to be or we're in the middle of a conversation about, personal development. And then it goes, and, the Hacking Your Leadership podcast is brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Sleep well tonight. It's just not,
Falco Canine Academy.
Exactly, human, right? Yeah. But I can do that on Life of Lozo because it would be like, where my dogs at? And then we do the Falco ad. I got you. But no, we've really talked about it because it's hey, there's an opportunity here, and what do we want to do? And the answer was no. The answer is let's just keep doing our thing. And I think what we're both working on right now are other platforms to which we can share our message. So, one of the things that, again, last year I've been working on for almost 3 years now, my bucket list item number 2 is my leadership book, which is actually complete, and the foreword is being written right now and should be out this month, right? And so it's my leadership platform. It's something I've talked about on the podcast as something that I'm really excited about, getting out there. But again, the podcast isn't the means to try to sell people anything at all. It's just, again, another thing that I want to be able to do for myself and get done. Chris does his consulting and it helps people with social media and employee communications. So the podcast has been really great because it's allowed us to have some attention of people that now want us to deliver more content in different ways. And that's kind of what we're just trying to do.
Fantastic. So, gosh, I'm trying to think where to go next because I have a couple places that I think we've already covered, and there's no sense going all over again. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, who do you follow? Well, who are the people that you follow? You've named people that your market likes, but who does Lozo follow? Who do you use as a mentor or just follow just to get some great ideas?
I've got a list of personal mentors of mine, leaders that I work for currently, leaders that I've worked for in the past, that I reach out to constantly to get, thoughts and perspective on. But I follow and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. I read Simon Sinek. Currently right now I'm working on social leadership. I've read John C. Maxwell. I've read 1 Minute Manager. I've read some of those larger theory leadership books. So I'm always open. There's a couple of LinkedIn influencers is man, cottoncandyfish.net, a candy. I can't believe I'm losing it right now. But there's a couple of influencers that are on LinkedIn that I really, really enjoy their content and their stuff on leadership. And of course, Joe Rogan. I am a TED Talk addict, so I'm getting bits and pieces from different leaders and authors and things like that. So I consume a lot of content that help me shape my own leadership, but also challenge how I see the world. But those are just some of the names right now that I really, really get into.
Awesome. The last thing, or not the last thing, I got two last things. What does Lorenzo Estevan Flores, what do you want? Think about this. What is it you want? What do you want? Not necessarily with the podcast, not necessarily in relationship to business. It can be, but what is it that you really want?
I want people to put 150% into the things that they're passionate about. And I want people to look in the mirror and realize that the only thing stopping them from achieving the work that they want to do and the dreams that they have is themselves. And that's what I want. I want people to understand that every one of us is uniquely powerful enough to make things come to fruition. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have things that are positives. We all have things that are negatives. Well, many people have been told that, you can't do it by whether it's bosses, teachers, parents, friends, whatever. But if people would go all in on what they love to do, and at the same time look in the mirror to make sure that I heard this quote the other day. Does your action match your aspiration? Right. Yeah. And if the answer is no, then you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve.
Right. Yeah, I think there's something in every one of us that can change somebody's life or change the world, and everything in between. And so there's something that that you have to offer. And if we just mess around doing crap, that will never be achieved. I have no other way to put it. But everybody has something. If you would find out what that thing is, that passion, and go for it, you could literally change somebody's life. That's really important. All right. I need to know, you could do one or three. That's actually, the question is for three. But what are three goals or dreams that are so insane? Right. What are some goals or dreams that are so insane that if you told your friends, they would laugh at you, and if you told them? Mine is, I want to own an island, and I want to own a mountain, and I want $1 trillion. Right. Those are, see, you laughed.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
But those are my goals and my dreams, and that's what I'm striving for. What would be your three, if you have them, or just one, goals or dreams that if you told your friends, they would laugh at you?
I want to live during the time of a time machine being created.
Oh,
nice. Not that I would necessarily go. I just want to know it's an option.
Well, now I got to ask, where would you go? What time would you go to?
Yeah, man. I'd go to the streets of New York in 1994.
Wow, really? What? Forget it. I wouldn't even go there. I was kind of there with a gun on the hockey team. We played hockey. Yeah, that was a little dangerous.
Yeah. No. I would want to go back to like the Greek philosopher time.
Yeah,
that's what I want to go back to. Just based on history and things that I've read, I would really love to understand how we made that leap, how people existed at that time, and were able to really put together so many things in different ways. That's intriguing to me, And then the second thing I would do is I want to go see the pyramids being built, whether it's by aliens or millions of people in water. I don't know. I just want to go.
I got to know that. All right, that's one. That's one goal or dream. What? Give me another one.
I want to have enough money that I could buy every house of every one of my friends and family members and give them the deed.
That's achievable.
I know.
That's not even laughable. That's achievable.
It's a lot. I want to win the lottery and do it. I want to win the lottery 4 times in the same week.
That's cheating. That's it has to be with hard work, elbow grease, and you got to get it done. All right, one more. I'm gonna force you to give me a third.
I want to DJ the first party on Mars.
That is a good one. That is a really good one.
And I want to do it wearing the Space Jam Air Jordans and the Occupy Mars Tesla shirt that I own. That's what I want to
do. Nice. I want that one. I'm gonna change one of mine. Maybe the $1 trillion. I don't have to necessarily be the DJ, but I want to be at your party on Mars that you're DJing.
Absolutely. It's going to be out of this world.
I have almost nothing to say after that. Wow. That is, I don't even want to ask another question because that is fantastic. Damn, I wish I would have thought of that. Son of a... Well, I hope you didn't mind me taking through the exercise, but it was really intriguing. And again, I want you guys to make sure and not only listen to each one of Lozo's podcasts, but I want you to subscribe to them. It really means a lot to people when you do that. I have my own podcast, of course, and I always love that when I see people subscribing, and it helps with sponsorships, whether you want them or not. Apparently, Lozo doesn't want them, but I'll take them. Just hand them over to me.
Right.
But just subscribe and listen and really get into it. And I really think you'll enjoy both of them. I know that I do. And I like to listen to them back to back. Life of Lozo, Hacking Your Leadership, and then going, what the hell? That is not, I mean, the voice is similar, but you got little things that you do in Life of Lozo that is just so interesting. Is it easy for you to do? I mean, does it when you are on Life of Lozo on the mic? Is it just? Yeah, I don't know. Just you? Which one is you actually?
Yeah, they're both. I mean, it's me. It's who I am. I think it's just it's the environment. When I'm on Life of Lozo and I'm comfortable and I'm talking to friends about stuff that I'm curious about and interested in and things that I'm passionate about, that's just who I am. When I'm talking to Chris about leadership, I take it serious. You know what I mean? I think it's because of the fact that I've had such tremendous mentors in my life that have made such a major impact on who I am and where I've gotten to. That I know they took it serious. So I kind of feel this overwhelming responsibility to not make a joke about it, but at the same time have some fun and be real and be honest with it. But it's one of the things that I say, it's what keeps me up at night is like, am I really living up to my mantra, right? Of that I care so much about my people that I want them to wildly succeed. That's a heavy responsibility. Yep. And so I think it's just a mindset change. And when we're talking on Hacking Your Leadership, and because it's unscripted, as I'm giving examples and answering questions, I'm literally watching the faces of people that I've led or that have been on teams that have been mentors of mine. And that's how I see it. I get passionate about it because I think of them. And I think of if they're listening right now, this may change what they do tomorrow, which will completely change their life potentially and lead to them being able to take care of themselves and their families in a much different way. Yeah.
Yeah. What you do with the 2 podcasts reminds me of a friend of mine here. I don't know if you know KFI Radio when you lived here. KFI Radio is an AM station, but it has a huge reach. It goes all the way to Utah, all the way down to San Diego, all the way up to Sacramento. It's got a strong signal, and it's a huge audience. And there's a gentleman, Neil Saavedra, and he hosts a show called The Fork Report, where he talks about food, right? And he has another show that's called The Jesus Christ Show, where he is Jesus Christ, who answers the phone and answers questions to people's questions about the Bible, about Jesus. And he says, but his voice as Jesus Christ is very welcoming and soft and very, And then when he's talking about the fork report, oh yeah, we're gonna eat these more, and it's completely different. And then he does commercials, he does sound bites and commercials on the show, but he has these two personas. And I asked him the same thing. I go, how is it you do it? He goes, I don't know. When I'm doing the show, I didn't even realize it until you just told me. I go, how you kidding me? I'm the only one who ever told you that you have two different voices and two different mannerisms of speaking. Yeah. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I never really thought about it, but when I'm speaking as Jesus Christ, I'm Jesus Christ. And
right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's it. When I'm in Hacking Your Leadership, I'm thinking about being a leader and my responsibility to people, helping them grow. When I'm on Life of Lozo, I'm just doing dumb stuff with my friends.
That's a great way to put it. But they're both smart. I think they're both very smart podcasts. I enjoy them very much, and I'm grateful that I've met you. I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to listen to both your podcasts. Even if I didn't meet you, I'd still be listening. So I really appreciate your time. I hope everything went okay with the show.
I loved it, man. This is great. No, it's fantastic, man. I was excited. I was posting and sharing all over my social media because I've never been in this chair before in my life. I've never been in the video stream interviewee chair. So it's great. Hey, I'll jump in. Let's do it. Right. Net friending 101.
Yeah. I'm excited about the people that I could see that were joining us. Chris Stark. Oh, wow. There's more. Well, I'm lacking here. I'm so into our conversation. I'm normally better at these things. Chris Stark says that Lozo wants to have 7 more daughters.
Hey, hold on. Keep that comment up real quick. So while we're on Chris Stark's comment and trolling, take a look at that picture of him in the background when he was a part of NSYNC before he got kicked out for playing water polo. Yeah. Chris was actually a member of NSYNC, and then they found out in his high school records that he played water polo, and the ultimate cool factor fell off, and they had to kick him out of the band. Oh. It's a true story.
He says that you want to finally be loved.
Yeah. I'm loved by him.
Yes. Yeah. And of course we had April with us, of course. Yep. We love April. April's fantastic. And
Jeff Adams was on.
What's that?
Jeff Adams.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Sorry. Jeff Adams. You guys are nearly neighbors. He's in Florida also.
Florida.
Do you know Jeff Adams?
No, but I've just started to watch some of his stuff because he's all over BeLive. So I was saying this the other day on the show that I'm new to the platform, so I'm just trying to consume as much content as I can and kind of get to know the characters that are there and how they do things and how they use the platform.
Yeah, we got a celebrity in our midst. Yeah. I see Miguel. I don't think he commented, but Miguel is part of our group down here in Southern California. He's in San Diego. I have a mastermind group that I run, and he showed up at one of our mastermind events a couple weeks ago. We love Miguel. And who else? Jeff Adams, Roy. Of course, Roy is here.
Of course,
Roy is the master of one-liners. I mean, what do you call those things that he comes up with? What are those called?
He called them selfie quotes.
Selfie quotes.
I call them punchlines.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't know. They are amazing. I don't know. He must have these Post-it notes all over his freaking house that has all these things on there. Carmen, how do we know Carmen? What's Carmen's story?
Where in the world is Carmen Mark Giacomo? That is Squiggy. That's my boy Squiggy. So Carmen, he is Italian as it gets. His mom makes the most amazing Italian food, but because I'm currently on a keto diet, I'm not allowed to eat any of it. So I'm upset by that. But Squiggy, really, really good friend of mine. He runs the music experience, and he's the gear editor for Loudwire. So he was the reason why I was out in California at NAMM, and just a really, really good dude. And he does the music experience, so all the big rock monster shows that happen across the whole country. So Rockville, Rock on the Range, there's a Bourbon and Beyond, where as an example, in Jacksonville, there's Ozzy Osbourne plays one night, Foo Fighters play one night.
Nice.
So he does this music experience where he has vendors and musicians, and he tells the stories of Fender and Gibson, or Fender and he's gonna kill me. I said Gibson because we don't really tell the Gibson story because they're not there, but. Fender and Dean and Paul Reed Smith PRS and things like that. But he also does something called the student experience, where he brings kids in every city. They do this. They give them backstage tours. They introduce them to all the people that are in the music industry. Many times it's musicians, but also managers and graphic designers and promoters and stagehands, to say, like, if you have a passion and love for music as a kid, there's actually this entire ecosystem of jobs that you could do and still live your passion. So he's very passionate about that.
Wow, fantastic. And now that I know somebody that knows him, I can get some tickets to some of these shows that he puts on.
Oh yeah, we'll make. He's got to come out and podcast and do some media for us. We'll be there.
Awesome. Here is an example of Roy's power. If you don't enjoy meeting people, guess what? People won't enjoy meeting you. That's an example of what he comes up with on a regular basis. There's a quote for just about everything, and that's Roy's superpower, apparently. What else we got here? Battle of the baseball caps. DJ Lozo in the house.
DJ Lozo.
Nice. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Again, is there one place you want people to go, or should we just tell them just to listen to the podcast?
Yeah, listen to the podcast. We've got websites for everything. So hackingyourleadership.com, lifeoflozo.com. The book coming out is visionclaritysupport.com. But all the podcasts are on Apple Podcasts. They're on Google Play. They're on Overcast, Pocket Cast, Podbean. You name it, they're out there. And soon to be Hacking Your Leadership Live. I think on Be Live here and on Facebook Live is what we're going to end up doing. So looking forward to that.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Look at you. Flying on the corporate ladder.
I'm just trying to get a bigger reach. That's all.
Did you know that I've helped about 900 something people become #1 best-selling authors? I'm not sure if you know that. But,
I did read that. I read that in your bio. I read that. Yeah, you got five books out.
8 #1 best-selling books. I have about 15 books that I've written. So
15.
Anyway, we're not here about me. We're here about you.
Oh, it's all about you, man. It's all about you.
Well, Lozo, I've been looking forward to this conversation that we've had, and I'm so happy again that we've gotten together and gotten to know each other. And so let's keep it going.
Oh, definitely. You will be on the Life of Lozo podcast, so expect that.
Nice.
Yes. And we may do it on Be Live, and then I'll just record the audio, like I'm doing with this show, and then we'll make some more content, because content provider is king, Andy, as you well know. And but yeah, and then we'll do my side of things, and then we'll really get some some hip hop trivia questions.
Nice. I'm going to be one with my urban self.
It's all good, man.
I have to get an urban dictionary.
Awesome.
And yes, thank you for joining us. Don't forget, on Monday, I'm going to be interviewing Tracy Rasmussen Enos about LinkedIn. And so we're going to be going deep into LinkedIn. I am just not, I can't figure out LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile. I need help. Tracy's going to help us understand it. So if you're struggling with LinkedIn, or you know all about LinkedIn and want to know some tricks of the trade, Tracy definitely is the person to be listening to. So on Monday, we'll be talking about Tracy. So tune into the Facebook Live TV show for that. And with that, thank you again, Lozo. I appreciate it that you took the time to be here. Go kiss your daughter goodnight and your wife, whatever happens after that. All right. That is it. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace.